Merci. Suite du débat, Senator Ravalia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Senators, it is with a sense of great privilege and humility that I rise today to reply to the speech from the throne. While my speech was intended to be delivered in February during Black History Month, discussing Black history and excellence can and should take place on any day or month of the year. Black History Month celebrates the many achievements of Black Canadians and their vital contributions throughout Canada's history to our arts, sciences, culture, and politics. It's also a time to learn about the lived experiences of Black Canadians and the systemic obstacles still faced every day by Canada's Black communities. As was stated in the speech from the throne at the opening of Parliament in September last year, for too many Canadians, systemic racism is a lived reality. Many people, especially Indigenous people, Black and racialized Canadians, have raised their voices and stood up to demand change. They are telling us we must do more. Honourable Senators, Black History Month is more than a celebration of the past. It is also time to commit to the change that our Black communities demand now and into the future. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the efforts put forth by the Black community activists in my home province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Precious Familusi, Brian Amadi, Raven Kadeja, Ryoko Milan, and Nuna Towe, who took this change into their own hands. Following the demonstrations against police brutality sparked by the murder of George Floyd, Precious, Brian, and Raven found a Black Lives Matter Newfoundland and Labrador chapter and Facebook page. The page is a resource and platform for Black voices in our province. It offers support for those who are actively fighting against anti-Black racism, as well as for those who are simply exhausted from experiencing it. Only 4 days after launching the Facebook page, the group had more than 6,000 followers and an official release from the City of St. John's declaring support and encouraging residents to stand up against racism. Thank you, Mayor Danny Breen and your councillors for that support. With the help of the community advocacy groups and other supporters, Raven, Ryoko, and Nuna organized a historic rally at Confederation Building in St. John's against anti-Black racism and police violence in June last year. They were overwhelmed by the turnout. Thousands of people of all racial groups showed up carrying signs and joining together in chants denouncing racism, police brutality, and discrimination. Supporters kneeled in solidarity as organizers and passionate speakers shed light on the need for action on anti-Black racism. Organizers worked collectively to ensure that any risks to public health were mitigated, including having makeshift medical stations near the steps, distributing face masks to those without them, and encouraging everyone to socially distance. At the Confederation Building, speakers of all ages took turns stepping up to the microphone to share their experiences with racism in Newfoundland and Labrador. Some offered advice for their fellow Newfoundlanders on how to better understand ideas of race and white supremacy, while others addressed Black members of the crowd and encouraged them to keep fighting. Honourable Senators, the launch of the Facebook page and the peaceful protest that followed are catalysts for change. The group has received thousands of messages from supporters wanting to learn how they can help. While Black History Month is a time to honour and celebrate the contribution of Black Canadians, it is also time to continue to learn and commit to action. As this year in particular has brought into focus, this is also a time to recognise that systemic racism in Canada has deep historical roots and continues to detrimentally affect Black Canadians. Here in the Senate, we share the honour and privilege of representing our regions. We must continue to integrate our own biases and prejudice. We must face up to the culturally entrenched prejudices that may exist within our own cities and provinces. Opening up this dialogue is critical to creating a more just and inclusive Canada, and ultimately a stronger and more resilient Canada. Thank you, Precious, Brian, Raven, Ryoko, and Nuna, and all the other local community organizers and advocacy groups, including the Anti-Racism Coalition of Newfoundland and Labrador, Memorial University Student Union, Planned Parenthood of Newfoundland and Labrador, and Starfest, for sparking this crucial discussion and for your efforts to eliminate anti-Black racism on the Rock. You are our next generation of leaders. As was stated in the throne speech, Canada must continue to stand up for the values that define this country. There's work still to be done, including on the road of reconciliation and in addressing systemic racism. Indeed, colleagues, there is still work to be done. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.